7 bone-chilling transformations when the Holy Spirit rushes into a believer's life at midnight. It was midnight, a time when shadows stretch ever longer and the world sits in heavy silence. But tonight, something shifted in the air, a crackling energy that seemed to tingle against the skin, urging the curious to listen closely. What would happen if the Holy Spirit decided to rush in? 6 moments, each more spine-chilling than the last, were about to unfold in the small town of Willow Creek, a neighborhood that always felt a little too quiet. Tiny lights flickered in the distance. But down an alley, an unmistakable whisper filled the air, a sound that bubbled up from somewhere deep, almost like it was clawing to get out. It was the kind of whisper that sent goosebumps racing along your arms and a tightness in your chest. People spoke of transformations, of everyday folks turned into something otherworldly at this very hour. Was it true? Meet Sarah, a simple grocery store clerk. Just a few nights ago, as the clock struck 12, she found herself on her knees, overwhelmed by a rush of warmth flooding her soul. Her body shook, not from fear, but from exhilaration. Suddenly, she could see visions, glimpses of future events so vivid they leaped and danced behind her eyelids. Her heart raced as she shouted prophetic words she'd never known. Friends said she looked different, like she was glowing. Others stepped back, eyes wide in disbelief. What if it's a curse? They wondered. The chatter twisted through the town, leaving a taste of unease on everyone's tongue. Every night, more people felt the tremor of change. Jacob, the town's reclusive loner, began to paint. Art poured from his fingertips, colors splattering in wild, chaotic forms. Each stroke echoed his tumultuous emotions he could never express before. The townsfolk stopped and stared, whispers buzzed through the streets. Had the Holy Spirit unleashed something? Or was it merely madness creeping in? Now, what if things escalated even more? People couldn't help but talk. There were murmurs of someone losing their grip on reality, claiming to hear divine messages. It was nothing short of shocking. What would happen next? Would the Holy Spirit continue to sweep through Willow Creek, taking over the lives of its inhabitants, with more breathtaking transformations waiting to be witnessed? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the clock ticked closer to the witching hour, rumors spread like wildfire. Voices rang in the air, carrying hints of fear and anticipation, leaving a cloud of nervous energy. Everyone wondered, what if they were next? What if the Holy Spirit picked them for a transformation? The town was on edge, tensions rising as shadows crept closer. Was there enough courage in Willow Creek to face whatever came next? Or would they simply become pawns in this eerie game? The night thickened with uncertainty, and only time would reveal the chilling secrets lying just beneath the surface. The night breathed heavily around Willow Creek, thick with anticipation. Every flicker of a street lamp seemed to echo the tension that crackled in the air. Folks whispered at their windows, beads of sweat forming on foreheads, hearts drumming in anxious unison. Each minute approaching midnight put them on higher alert, everyone waiting, watching. Sarah stood by her bedroom window, the moon casting strange shadows across her face. She could hardly sleep. Since her transformation, her mind was swimming with visions, swirling colors and whispers of fate that both thrilled and terrified her. Each night, the warmth returned, pushing her towards something great yet sinister. She pressed her palms against the cool glass, desperate for clarity. Down the street, Jacob's house caught her eye. He had become a nocturnal artist, painting late into the night. Colorful chaos exploded on his canvas, wild strokes that oozed emotion. She remembered standing outside one evening, captivated by the frenzy of creativity. His paintings almost seemed alive, and his eyes reflected a fierce glow. Was this the Holy Spirit's doing? Could these transformations really be divine, or were they spiraling into chaos? Meanwhile, rumors twisted like smoke. Whispers of multiple transformations drifted from house to house. People feared the power growing in their sleepy town. Tom, the local barber, had claimed he could heal minor injuries with just a touch, his hands now shimmering with an otherworldly light. A few nights ago, a child sprained his ankle nearby, and within moments, it was as if magic took hold. The townspeople gawked with open mouths, a mix of wonder and disbelief flashing in their eyes. Others shunned him, unsure where this new gift led him and them. As ordinary folks turned extraordinary overnight. Some fought off seductive darkness. Martha, a shy librarian, found herself saying words of wisdom in front of crowds at the park, her voice rising above the murmurs. Hearts warmed, then trembled. Was it the Holy Spirit or a darker force trying to sway them all? They began questioning their own selves, trying to discern miracles from madness, faith from fear. Then there was Andrew, a schoolteacher turned prophet. In a fit of fervor last night, he claimed to have had a vision of the coming of the one who would lead them into the light. His eyes glistened with fervency, but terror gripped the audience. Some felt drawn to his message while others recoiled, seeing a harbinger of chaos. The warnings were clear. With every blessing, a potential curse lingered close behind. The clock's minute hand raced. 7 minutes until midnight. Just then, Sarah felt a surge of energy like an electric jolt coursing through her veins. She couldn't shake the feeling that this night would bring about her greatest revelation or her greatest fear. Would she step into the light, or would darkness reach for her as well? The voices in her head swelled, an urgent chorus that urged her to act. Suddenly, Jacob's door flew open. His figure stood illuminated by the dim light inside, a mix of determination and ragged desperation on his face. Without warning, he shouted into the night, "Willow Creek. Tonight, we either embrace this change or let it consume us. Are you with me?" As the question hung in the thick air, Sarah's heart raced. She felt the tremors of fate grip her. Would she answer his call? And what storm awaited within the spirit of midnight? The answer felt monumental. Yet, what lay ahead remained shrouded in shadows, teetering on the edge of transformation and oblivion. With the hour nearing, would they stand united, or would chaos reign? The midnight clock chimed, and everything shifted. The rush of the Holy Spirit surged forward, but an unexpected presence loomed darkly in its wake. What would it bring? The moment the clock struck midnight, a wave of energy rippled through Willow Creek, vibrating through the ground and into every soul awake. Sarah shivered, her heart pounding like a tribal drum, an instinctive lure drawing her closer to Jacob's call. The moonlight bathed the street, amplifying the eeriness as she pulled away from the window and stepped out of her room. The streets of Willow Creek transformed into a canvas painted with shadows, some swirling and dancing in unnatural patterns. A crowd had gathered around Jacob, faces illuminated by the sporadic bursts of light coming from his dimly lit home. Each person wore a mask of urgent curiosity, but beneath that sat a glimmer of fear, the kind that prickled the back of the neck. "Willow Creek, are you ready?" Jacob's voice boomed, and with each word, Sarah felt the magnetic force tug at her. She cautiously joined the throng, excitement and trepidation mingling within her. As she neared, she locked eyes with Jacob, and something shifted, a connection sparked. She could almost feel the warmth radiating from him, a beacon in the tension-laden night. "Are you ready to embrace what we've been given?" Before anyone could respond, a loud crack echoed from the trees bordering the park, a branch snapping with a fracture that resonated like a gunshot in the silence. Murmurs rippled through the crowd like water disturbed by a pebble. A chill swept through Sarah's body, causing a shudder to run down her spine. They weren't alone. Suddenly, through the thickening shadows, a figure emerged, seemingly conjured from the very darkness itself. Clad in dark, tattered robes that billowed around him like a storm cloud, his face was shrouded, only his eyes glowing red beneath the hood. Fear rippled through the crowd, snapping the collective confidence that had briefly taken hold. "Seekers of the light," the figure called, his voice a distorted echo, as if the air shivered each time he spoke. "Do you not see? This power you grasp, it requires a price. Are you willing to pay it?" Gasps escaped from the townspeople, some recoiling while others stood transfixed, caught between terror and intrigue. Sarah's heart raced. The figure's words twisted around her thoughts. Could power be that dangerous? Her breath came sharp, a lump forming in her throat. Jacob's defiance broke the tension. We reject your darkness. We embrace who we are now. He stepped forward, challenges igniting in his voice. Yet, around him, the crowd wavered, uncertainty dancing on their faces. Foolish child, the cloaked figure hissed, his voice booming. You think you have chosen? The flames of transformation scald, and those who attempt to lead in the light often find themselves consumed by their own desires. He stretched out a claw-like hand, fingers trembling as if poised to pluck their hearts from their chests. A wave of panic swept through Sarah. Would Jacob's fiery spirit be enough to ward off whatever malevolent force this was? Her instincts screamed for her to run, yet she stood frozen, gripping the fabric of her clothes as if it could anchor her to the earth. Together, Jacob implored, a desperate plea that cut through the surging chaos. Find your strength. We can either form a united front or be devoured. As tension thickened like a palpable fog, the darkness surged forward, reaching for them like an insatiable maw. Would they solidify their collective strength, or would they splinter into despair? Just then, a flash of light burst from the ground, illuminating the scene in a radiant white. The battle was about to begin, but who would join the fray, and what kind of transformation awaited them? The clock had struck midnight, but the true test was just beginning. Would they stand strong against the shadow, or would they falter in the face of overwhelming dread? The light surged like a tidal wave, enveloping everyone in its embrace. For a fleeting moment, Sarah felt its warmth wrap around her, a desperate comfort against the encroaching chill of the shadow. Gasps erupted from the crowd, and eyes widened, reflecting the brilliance of the display. The cloaked figure staggered back, his crimson glare momentarily faltering. Feel it, Jacob shouted, his voice rising above the din. The power is within us. Harness it. He reached out, and those closest to him began to mirror his movement, hands lifted as if trying to collect the vibrancy from the air. But then the light flickered, dimming like a candle in a gust. Panic surged through Sarah once more, the brightness waning to a merely weak glow. The cloaked figure regained his footing, laughter echoing through the night. It was not a sound of joy, but one twisted with malice. You think you have the strength? Your light is but a flicker in the void. With that, the shadows behind him thickened like smoke, morphing into shapes that seemed human, yet grotesquely altered. Dark figures emerged, their eyes shimmering with the same ominous red, moving in sync with the cloaked figure, an army of nightmares. A hush fell over the crowd, fear clamping down like a steel vice. Jacob, Sarah cried, her voice breaking through the dread. She took a step forward, legs trembling, all senses screaming for her to turn and flee. But as she glanced at Jacob, individually illuminated by the specter of courage, a spark ignited within her. She wasn't alone. Around her, others began to close in, forming a united front, their fingers entwined through camaraderie and shared resolve. The energy in the air shifted. It felt thicker, charged with an electric hum. We can't back down, her neighbor urged, eyes wide, fear igniting sparks of determination. The cloaked figure bared his teeth in a cruel grin, and the shadow beings jerked forward in a sudden, chaotic rush. The ground trembled beneath them, and Sarah's heart raced even faster. Stand firm, she shouted, her voice drowning beneath the dark images of despair. Then, just as they surged, the light flared once more, engulfing the square in brilliance as if the moon itself had broken free from the trivial clouds guttering its glow. But this time, it wasn't just Jacob's orders that held the light. It rippled through the crowd, fuel stoked by unity and shared purpose. The first shadow lunged for Sarah, its cold breath grazing her cheek, but she steeled herself, recalling Jacob's urging. Together, she roared, pushing the light outward, focusing on the warmth spreading through her hands. Together, the light pulsed against the darkness, stronger, mightier. It felt like a shield and a weapon all at once. Each person standing with her glimmered, a reflection of hope turned into a radiant barrier. The darkness shrieked, recoiling, and Sarah felt an exhilarating rush within her. Everyone around her soared with possibility. But then, in the instant that the shadows retreated, a new sound pierced the night, a low booming that made the ground vibrate. The air thickened with an unearthly chill, and shadows, still swirling, began to crackle with energy. Not your time yet. The cloaked figure hissed, now trembling with rage. This is only the beginning. Your strength is a flicker before the storm. The ground shuddered and cracked like broken ice, and a rift opened, sucking in the shadows, vaporizing them into nothingness. But for how long? Sarah stared, breathless, jaw-clenching. As figures began to emerge from the rift, a feeling of dread washed over her, like dark clouds ready to unleash a violent storm. What new terror was coming? Would they stand united against it, or would they shatter under the weight of their own fears? To be continued. The rift pulsed ominously, each throb echoing in Sarah's chest as darkness spilled out. It felt alive, a writhing mass of despair and hatred clawing its way into the world. Gasps of terror rippled through the crowd, a wave of apprehension that seemed to link every soul present. "I can't stand here," a woman shrieked, clutching her child to her chest, frantic eyes darting. "We can't fight this. Stay together." Jacob's voice cut through the panic, steadier now. "We need each other. Remember the light." But as shadows slithered from the rift, twisting and writhing, Sarah felt doubt gnawing at her resolve. The stench of damp earth and something rotten filled the air. A figure, more defined than the rest, emerged, a grotesque parody of humanity, its face a mask of agony, twisted into eternal torment. It laughed, a sound that chilled Sarah to the bone. The figure's eyes burned with an unholy fire. "Fools, you think a flicker can stand against a storm?" It sneered, voice like gravel crunching underfoot. "Your unity is a joke, a cruel mirage hiding the weaknesses that will consume you." The ground around Sarah trembled, and she clenched her fists. "This is just a trick," she yelled, conviction lacing each word. "We're stronger than this. We have something it doesn't." As if answering her challenge, the darkness hesitated, shifting and swirling like clouds before a tempest. Shadows recoiled, momentarily uncertain. But the cloaked figure behind them grinned wider, eyes glinting like polished steel. "Foolish girl," it hissed, tongue flicking out like a snake. "Do you not see? Your hope is your slavery. Embrace the darkness and join me. Together, we could rule far beyond this wretched town." "Never," Jacob roared, stepping forward, arms outstretched. "We refuse your offer. We'll fight back with our light." The crowd surged behind him, their collective energy feeding the radiance that flickered in their midst. Sarah's heart thrummed with purpose as she drew strength from each face around her, igniting a brilliant flame of defiance. But the rift surged again, and with it, terrifying shapes twisted through its boundaries. Creatures of dark despair began to break free, overlapping and coiling together, a monstrous legion of nightmares pouring into their midst, each shriek probing the very core of their resolve. "No," Sarah cried as cold tendrils of shadow reached toward her, threatening to drag her into the maw of darkness. An electrifying surge coursed through her body as she thrust her arms forward, whispering a fervent prayer for unity. The light flared to life, glowing with the intensity of 1,000 suns. The shadows recoiled, screeching in unison, but still, more poured forth from the rift, each more horrific than before. It felt insurmountable, each pulse of darkness forcing her to question her strength, her belief. "Hold the line," Jacob bellowed, rallying the crowd. "This is our world, our fight, and we will not surrender." With each passing heartbeat, Sarah found her fears battling with courage. The faces around her, filled with resolution, reignited a spark deep within. Suddenly, she no longer felt like a flicker. They were a roaring fire, promising a resistance against the despair that sought to snuff them out. Then, just as the shadows surged forward, the earth split wider, a gaping maw threatening to swallow them whole. A figure emerged from within the rift, shimmering with a brilliance that caught Sarah's breath. Who or what was this? Was it friend or foe? Her heart hammered as she braced herself for what was to come. What would it bring? Salvation or destruction? To be continued. Light exploded from the rift, shattering the oppressive darkness that loomed over them. The crowd gasped as they witnessed the figure, radiant and imposing. It seemed to pulse with energy, illuminating the terrified faces that surrounded it. Sarah squinted against the brilliance, trying to discern the newcomer's features, but the edges of their form shimmered, like stars twinkling in a foggy night sky. "Fear not," a voice reverberated, deep yet gentle, wrapping around them like a warm blanket. "I have come to banish this shadow." "Who are you?" Jacob shouted, stepping closer, defiance radiating from him like a lighthouse in the storm. Sarah felt a swell of hope course through her veins, bolstered by his courage. No time for questions. The figure's hand reached out, and with a swift motion, it swirled the light into a barrier. "Stand behind me." The darkness lunged forward, snarling, its shapes impossibly twisted. Each creature bore the weight of despair, the air thickening with chills that gnawed at their resolve. The figure remained tall, unyielding, and for a moment, the blight paused, as if taken aback by the vibrancy of the light surrounding them. "Your evil shall not flourish here," the figure intoned, voice reverberating through the air, rippling against their senses like a sweet melody. Sarah's breath came in ragged bursts, caught between the shimmering brilliance and the suffocating dark. The creatures resumed their assault, hissing and clawing at the edges of the light, dark tendrils stretching and snapping like whips. She felt the surge of terror within her pulse, threatening to drown her hope. "Together," Jacob's voice blared, shattering the suffocating grip of doubt. "We stand united." With a cry, Sarah pushed her fear aside, forcing her hands into the radiant barrier. The light intensified, saturating the air with warmth and energy. Gathering every ounce of strength, she invoked the essence of unity that flowed like a river through the crowd, feeling their spirits intertwine. She could see their faces, mouths moving in silent prayers of determination. The cloaked figure lurking behind the darkness bellowed, its voice becoming a monstrous roar. "You are mistaken if you think hope can prevail. Together, you are nothing but a fleeting spark." Yet the bond weaving through the crowd began to transform the air. Light danced higher, cascading like a waterfall against the onslaught of shadows. The monstrous laughter of the figure rang hollow, fear cracking its confidence as bright tendrils licked their way through the despair. The figure at the rift raised its hands, and the ground quaked beneath them. A blinding flash surged outward, and within a heartbeat, the darkness spiraled back, shrieking in fury. "This cannot last. I shall return." With a final, desperate surge, the shadows retreated, pulled back into the rift like ink dissolving in water. As the last remnants vanished, the air grew still, a haunting silence falling over the crowd. But the shimmering figure remained, now more defined, revealing a face that held the weight of ages. "This is but a temporary reprieve. You must be vigilant. There are darker forces still at play, hidden even from the rift." Sarah's heart stopped, dread creeping back into her chest. "What do you mean?" "We fight only the beginning," it replied, eyes shining with piercing wisdom. "Your unity must deepen, or this victory, sweet as it is, will be temporary. The power of darkness will rise again." Panic washed over her, mingling with confusion. "What do we do now?" As if sensing her despair, the figure extended its hand. "Follow me, to the heart of unity. It is your only hope." In that moment, questions flooded Sarah's mind. Where would this lead them? What awaited deeper within? With a heavy heart, yet unwavering determination, she took the first step forward. What awaited them in the depths of hope? To be continued. The crowd hesitated, murmurs and uncertain glances exchanged like currency. Sarah felt Jacob squeeze her hand reassuringly. "We can do this," he whispered, his voice filled with determination that sparked warmth in her chest. The figure beckoned them forward, and as Sarah stepped closer, the barrier of light pulsated around her. She could almost feel its heartbeat, syncing with hers, filling her with an incredible energy. Every heartbeat echoed the thunder of hope fighting against despair. As they moved, the landscape shifted. The ground beneath their feet felt softer, almost alive, as vibrant colors erupted around them. The smell of fresh earth filled her lungs, and the once oppressive darkness seemed a distant memory. "What is this place?" she asked, looking around. "The heart of unity," the figure replied, its voice resounding with authority and peace. "Here, you will learn the strength that lies within your connections." They walked through a vast expanse, dotted with glimmering stones that radiated warmth. The air buzzed, thick with promise and energy. But as they continued, unease began to creep back in. Hadn't he, the figure said, darker forces still lurked? Suddenly, the vibrant colors dulled. Shadows stretched and coiled, sneaking up like a creeping vine. A chilling wind swept across the landscape, and Sarah shivered. "Stay close," Jacob warned, voice firm. As Sarah glanced over her shoulder, darkness seeped into the corners of their path, ready to swallow the light. She faced forward, heart racing. "What do we do?" she asked again, fear clawing at her insides. The figure's voice echoed, "You must each find your light within. Only then can you stand against what comes next." "What does that even mean?" Sarah exclaimed, panic rising. The figure paused, its gaze steady, eyes brimming with ancient knowledge. "Each of you carries the essence of unity. You must face your fears, confront your shadows. In doing so, you'll forge an unbreakable bond." The words struck a chord in Sarah. Courage flickered at the edge of her mind like the light they had just fought to protect. Suddenly, a deafening howl shattered the stillness. Shadows writhed, twisting into dreadful forms, their grotesque faces sneering at them. "We are not afraid," Jacob shouted, stepping forward, defiance radiating off him like the barrier they had created earlier. But Sarah felt the doubt crawl back in. What if their defiance wasn't enough? She felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. She took a deep breath, gripping Jacob's hand tighter. "I have to face it," she declared, her voice trembling but resolute. The figure nodded in approval. "Very well. Join hands and face your darkness." They formed a circle, the others creeping closer, hearts beating in the common rhythm of fear and strength. In that moment, the darkness lunged toward them again. But it wasn't just desperation that surged through them. It was resolve. Sarah closed her eyes, her mind racing back to every moment of despair she had faced in silence. From the bullying in school to the loss of her father, each regret twisted into shadows that hovered just beyond her vision. Together, Jacob shouted again, and Sarah's heart soared. She could feel the energy of the group pulse around her like a heartbeat, that a swell of warmth washed over her, brighter than before. She focused on the light within her, awakening it from the depths of her being. It was there, she just had to reach it. In one explosive moment, she launched her fear into the universe. Light exploded from her, merging with Jacob's and the others' sparks, forming an overwhelming energy that extinguished the darkness around them. But even as the shadows shrank back, a low growl rumbled in the distance. "You may have delayed me, but I will not be denied," the haunting voice echoed. Sarah's heart raced. They had succeeded, but at what cost? "Prepare yourselves," the figure warned, standing protectively before them as a new darkness loomed on the horizon, larger and more menacing than anything they had faced before. Where would the next battle lead them? Would they have the strength to confront this new menace? To be continued. A heavy silence fell, almost palpable, as the dark shape approached. With each step it took, shadows twisted and warped into horrifying faces, whispering secrets of despair. Sarah could feel the temperature drop, a chill creeping up her spine as the figure loomed closer. "Stay strong," Jacob shouted, his voice a beacon. The figure who had guided them thus far stayed resolute. Its presence blazed like a lighthouse in a storm. But how long could it hold against this gathering darkness? The air crackled around them, thick with tension. Sarah looked at the faces of her friends. Their bravery mingled with terror ignited something within her. "Jacob," she murmured, "what if this is too much? Then we fight together, just like we did with the shadows before," he reminded her, determination etched on his face. The menacing growl echoed again, closer now. Sarah's breath quickened. She closed her eyes, feeling her heart pound as fear squeezed her chest. But what if our light isn't enough anymore? In her moment of doubt, the figure turned to her, its eyes meeting hers. "You underestimate the power you wield. Your connection to each other amplifies your light. Trusting one another is the key." "I don't know if I can do this," her voice broke, revealing her vulnerability. "You must," Jacob urged. "We face this together." Suddenly, the ground trembled. An insidious laughter seeped from the shape as it materialized, a monstrous entity formed from their darkest fears. Shapes twisted into grotesque forms, morphing into figures from Sarah's past, her father's disappointed gaze, a schoolyard bully's mocking smile. Each familiar face ignited a spark of dread within her. Jacob's grip tightened around her hand. Focus, not on them, but on us, our connection. The shadows writhed, slashing against the protective barrier of light, a cacophony of hisses and growls assaulting their ears. The figure at the center steadied them, radiating calm. Let your unity illuminate their darkness, it encouraged, as the creature lunged forward. Sarah felt an inexplicable warmth envelop her, pulsing like a heartbeat, urging her to act. With a surge of determination, she opened her eyes, and the swirling darkness met her gaze. "You're nothing," she screamed, her voice coming from deep within. The warmth transformed into a searing light, infusing her body, melding with Jacob's, spreading to everyone around her. Together, Jacob shouted, rallying the group. They focused on their bond, a force more powerful than the creeping malevolence. Light erupted from them, pure, blazing through the night. As it surged outward, the monstrous entity recoiled, hissing and screeching. But it was only pushed back momentarily. The shadows seemed to thicken, multiplying as the creature writhed in pain. "Don't stop," the figure urged, and Sarah felt tendrils of fear tugging her back. But something else grew within her, too: courage, hope, and a determination to protect the one she loved. "Remember why we fight," she yelled, lifting her chin defiantly. Then something shifted. A whisper in her mind urged her towards something deep within, facing the inner turmoil that had haunted her. Shivers coursed down her spine. Would confronting her fears give them the strength they needed? As light blazed fiercely around them, she remembered a moment with her father, the warmth of his laughter and the lessons he imparted. "We're never alone," she breathed, awakening something profound inside. Suddenly, a crack echoed loudly as the creature unleashed a horrible roar, splitting the night. Shadows swirled ominously, coalescing into a darker mass, more concentrated than before, and charged at them like a freight train. "Hold the line," the figure's voice commanded. As the darkness closed in again, Sarah realized they needed to face not just the shadows outside, but the fears that ignited within. Could they endure the weight of that reality? "Let us fight," she shouted bravely, channeling her fear into a memory. A moment of clarity. Something heavy loomed ahead, an enormous figure, taking shape through the dark mist. Who was it? Was this the final confrontation? To be continued. The monstrous form surged closer. Sarah's heart raced. This was it. It wasn't just a creature of darkness anymore. It was familiar. It wore the face of her fears, but somehow twisted, grotesque, and unrecognizable. A reflection of everything she had tried to bury. "Stay together," Jacob yelled, his voice cracking with urgency. The shadows pulsed, each throb matching the frantic rhythm of their hearts. Sarah took a step forward, defiance lighting her features. "We're not afraid of you," she shouted, though her voice wavered. The creature recoiled but quickly lashed back. It seemed to feed off her uncertainty, growing larger, darker, an ever-morphing mass of despair. The air felt thick, electric with tension, and Sarah could hardly breathe. "No," she cried, facing the terror directly. "You don't own me. You're just a shadow." The entity hesitated, as if her words stung. Then it transformed again, becoming a tempest of fear and anguish, swirling malevolently. The cacophony of whispers intensified, mixing Sarah's insecurities with echoes from those she had lost, a haunting chorus that threatened to swallow her whole. Nearby, Jacob staggered, the concentrated darkness pressing down on him like a heavy weight. "Keep fighting, Sarah. We are stronger together." That phrase reverberated within her, igniting a new wave of resolve. She could feel the warmth from their connection, feeding her spirit with an unwavering light. As the shadows pressed in, Sarah clenched her fists and closed her eyes, diving deep into the sea of memories. She called forth the laughter of her father, the tender moments, and the strength of friendship that had seen her through. It all crashed over her like a tidal wave, flooding her with a fierce determination. "Together," she cried, opening her eyes to the drifting darkness. With that proclamation, she felt the presence of her friends bolster her energy. Light blazed from within, illuminating the faces around her: Jacob, Emma, and Liam, all standing resolute. "Remember our light," Sarah urged, as she channeled the energy building within her. Light erupted, vibrant and unyielding, slicing through the suffocating darkness. The sinister laughter grew frantic, echoing eerily in the air. "You think you can escape?" Sarah surged forward, her fear twisting into an unbreakable thread of resolve. We're not escaping. We are fighting back. The darkness buckled under their steadfast unity. Shadows shrank back, but they remained persistent, reshaping themselves into even more grotesque mockeries, taking forms that unleashed fresh terrors. A young Sarah eerily smiling, her high school locker looming larger, filled with the lies that had haunted her. No, no, get out of my head, she shouted. Tears streamed down her face as she fought back the memories. You don't control me. And with that, she turned to her friends, rallying their strength. Together, shine for the ones we love. Suddenly, a bright burst erupted from their hands, casting beams through the oppressive gloom. The entity hissed, momentarily retreating, but the darkness rallied back with thrashing tendrils, seeking to pull them apart. Hold on. Don't let go. At that moment, the skies seemed to open. As if in response to their resolve, a new light appeared overhead, promising hope. But just as they grasped at this new energy, the ground beneath them cracked, and what appeared to be a rift opened wide, revealing an unfathomable void. The shadows coalesced, spun into a vortex threatening to consume everything, the chill of despair clawing at their backs. This is just the beginning, a voice echoed, a creeping whisper outside the ruckus. Face the truth. The figure at the center of their circle shouted above the chaos. But what truth? What did that mean? The darkness swirled in, forcing its way between them, and Sarah felt her grip weakening. She couldn't let go. Not now. Not ever. Together. She called again, as the void churned. Would their light withstand the darkness, or would they be swallowed whole, to be continued? The darkness roared with an unearthly fury, thrashing against the barrier the group of friends had formed. Gritting her teeth, Sarah held tight to Jacob's hand, her heart pounding like a war drum. We can't let it win, she shouted, the words escaping her lips like a battle cry. The shadows twisted and writhed, reaching out for her, but there was something different now. The light within her pulsed stronger, cradled by the strength of her friends. Think of the love you felt, the moments that made you who you are. Jacob's voice cut through the chaos, a beacon in the storm. As the shadows lunged, shapes morphing into the whispers of her past, Sarah clenched her jaw, memories flooding her. The laughter of her father, the friendships that had lifted her from the darkness, each memory became a source of power, fueling the light burning within her. Together, she echoed, turning to the faces around her filled with determination. The light they generated flared brightly, casting away the creeping shadows that threatened to envelop them. No more, Sarah cried, thrusting her free hand forward, focusing on all that was truly hers, the friendship, the love, the hope. The energy surged from her fingertips in brilliant bursts, illuminating the choking darkness. The malevolent creature cried out, a cacophony of anguish that tore through the night as the barriers of light pushed back against its form. You think you can keep me at bay? It bellowed, its voice a twisted mockery. Your connections mean nothing in the face of despair. But Sarah felt the ground beneath her pulse with a unity she couldn't ignore. You're wrong, she roared back, her voice steady and fierce. We are stronger than you'll ever understand. In that moment, the light erupted in a glorious blaze, not just from her, but from everyone. It was a collective roar of defiance against the shadows, a blast of radiant hope that consumed the darkness whole. Faces gleamed with resolve, and the air buzzed with newfound energy. The rift shuddered violently, quaking with the power of their connection. The entity writhed, shattering into ephemeral fragments, each sliver of it dissolving into the luminous glow. Gasps of awe swept through the crowd, and the figure standing with them nodded, eyes glimmering. You've done it. Together, you've breached the abyss. Hope filled Sarah's heart like a warm embrace as she watched the vicious creature retreat into the void, confusion in its lingering cry. The shadows faded into nothingness, whisked away by the collective force of their combined strength. One last flash of brilliance illuminated the night, and a silence fell over Willow Creek, thick and serene. But just as Sarah thought they had won, the sky darkened. A rumble echoed through the ground beneath them. This isn't over, the commanding figure warned, its voice urgent. This was but a warning shot. Realization surged through Sarah, chilling her to her core. What do we do now? How do we prepare? She asked, her voice trembling. You must nurture this unity, the figure urged, its light shimmering brighter. Your bond will be tested again, and the darkness will find new ways to infiltrate. Together, you must remain vigilant. As the dawn broke on Willow Creek, a glimmer of hope burst forth from the horizon, bathing everything in hues of sunlight. The townspeople emerged from their homes, eyes wide and filled with whispers of disbelief that shifted into the sounds of triumph. They stood together, ready to embrace what came next. With a knowing smile, Jacob squeezed Sarah's hand. Whatever comes our way, we face it together. We're unstoppable. Yes, Sarah said, lifting her chin defiantly as the warmth of renewed hope wrapped around them. Always together. And as the sun rose higher, casting shadows behind, the people of Willow Creek echoed her sentiment, resolution flooding their hearts, linked by a force more profound than fear. Finally, they could breathe again. The journey had just begun, but the strength of their unity would guide them through the darkness ahead. There would be challenges, yes, but they now had the most powerful weapon of all, each other. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.